Hello, extra time.
They point to the league not to get a hoy because it damages your reputation. It makes people, when they read it, just laugh at you.
The simple block, they're playing in the League One and they're playing in the Europa League and they're credit to the game in this country. Maybe we should get Stephen Kenny down to manage the Irish team.
Welcome everybody to another episode of the extratime.com podcast. Your host Luke Jordan, the guys Macdara, Ferris and Donal Ryan alongside me again. Lads, how are we?
Good.
Good, how's things?
We're all good. We're coming to you now on a Tuesday night. Myself and Donal chatting on Bank Holiday Monday. Lee Desmond, that'll be coming up later on. I suppose, look, as the major news, we'll get cracking straight away, and that's the removal of Tim Clancy as St. Patrick's first team manager. Maybe before we talk about Tim Clancy, we'll talk about his last game in charge first. I'll go to Macdara first. He was reporting the game for some extra time. Macdara, it's never nice to see a man do his job, but look, before I give my own opinion on the circumstances, I think that looking at that performance and isolating it wasn't good with Pats.
No, it wasn't. It wasn't a good performance, and it comes on the back of other bad performances and other bad results. It was obviously the third game in a row that they lost, but it's also the third game in a row they didn't score a goal. And Tim Clancy spoke about it after pitchside after the game about that. They created very little chances. They've only had one shot on target in the last three games. That's just not good enough. Like yesterday, they had 5 attempts on goal. Now Sligo Rovers didn't have much more, but they were better for it. But the XG yesterday for Pats was 0.22, which just in a home game, when you're looking to kind of get back into things, just isn't good enough. So I think that's really been the downfall. That maybe there was expectations on Tommy Lonergan coming in. Working under, experience, working alongside maybe experienced strikers like Owen Doyle. The Clancy threw on players at the end. Obviously, there was a red card for Owen Doyle as well. But, the response at the end of the game, there was a bit of booing, but I felt it was nearly almost for the referee. The people were frustrated with the red card and whatever. But, I did say yesterday to someone that I thought Clancy was on borrowed time. I didn't think it'd be as quick as this. Resigned by mutual consent is a new one from me, because that is a bit of an oxymoron. But as you say, no one really wants to see a manager lose his job. I think particularly as Pats are full time, and it's a it's a full time role that Tim Clancy's gone out of. But I suppose if the results aren't good enough, and they're kind of looking. They're still well clear of kind of trouble below them, but the whole idea is, Pats are playing in Europe, looking towards, challenging for league title. And I suppose bringing making the decision now to make a change means you can bring the manager in. You're probably looking at having to get a pro license holder. I know Alan Matthews is a pro license holder, but with Pats in Europe, with shadow coaching, whatever, you probably. They need to go down the route of appointing a pro license holder. I know John Daly, who is Clancy's assistant manager, has come in as an interim manager, but they'll obviously work over the next few weeks and try and bring someone in.
Yeah, and as well, look, there's a lot to unpack there. Just in the performance itself, I think, like you're saying there, what was the XG 0.22 in the game?
Yeah,
that's incredibly poor for a home match. I mean,
yeah,
you were there, full house again. Like a lot of stuff is going on. Pats, especially off the field at the moment, but on the field, you can see it there. Look, I think the first thing I suppose it's important to mention. It's very tough for anyone to lose their job, and on a human level like that, I think it's important to point that out. And I think nobody wants to see anyone lose their job, and especially a full-time position of football in Ireland, it's hard to come by. So that's important to point that out. But like I said, I think the statistics are quite damning. I think performances themselves have been very hit and miss since last year. I think a lot of people, including myself, was like the first season, a bit of a rebuild there, a lot of players coming in, and I think like we're all kind of thinking, right, maybe not the best season. European was pretty good. So a lot of credit in the bank there, especially the way Tim Murray went on penalties. But like start this season, losing 3 games in a row. Sorry, go on, jump in, go on.
And that was it, because Pats were streaky, because they lost 3 games in a row, and then they drew with Shamrock Rovers and Tallaght, but really should have been well beaten that night. Then they went and won 3 in a row, but it was kind of what was expected, because it was against the the teams down at the bottom of the table. It was UCD bottom side. It was Cork City and Drogheda United, who are, they're not down at the bottom, but you're expecting you're going to win those games, and then having beaten Bohs, who were top of the table, they then went and lost to Rovers, lost to Derry. I suppose the other top two or top three sides, if you like, and then losing to pass. Like I spoke about, not scoring enough goals. Obviously, the loss of their skipper Joe Redmond is tough in the last couple of weeks, and I could see him there yesterday. He was on crutches with a big knee brace. He's had to have an operation on his knee, and he's out for the medium term. So you were kind of like he was up sitting in the director's box, and you're kind of going, we had him on the show. Like he spoke really honestly about the disappointment. I think we had him on maybe after the third defeat in a row, kind of earlier on the season, and you think maybe that Pats had turned a corner, and he's definitely been missed in the last few weeks, and they were missing a number of other players. Looking at the injury update, like the team updates ahead of time in the preview, there's 4 or 5 players that they were missing, but it was also like I heard Oisín Langan on the Voice in This podcast talk to Clancy afterwards, and Oisín asked him, kind of what was wrong, and he kind of, it was almost as if he didn't know why, and he was kind of, he couldn't put a pinpoint on. Now at times you're like, okay, maybe that's the manager, he kind of knows in his head, but he just doesn't want to come out and maybe blame the players. People are listening, within the squad, there's different messages you want to put out there, but it kind of sounded like he was like, oh, where are we going to go here? And he obviously reflected on it overnight and spoke to Gary Keller this morning, and they made a decision to part ways.
Yeah. And even like Joe Redmond, of course, the huge loss, and he's been fantastic. Probably one of the bright sparks of Pat's last 18 months. But look, as I paint myself now, it's obviously unfortunate for a man to lose his job. I do think, if I'm being brutally honest, I think it's the correct decision. I think it was always going that way, and whether he won the next couple of games, I think the pressure wouldn't have relieved itself. I think this would have eventually came around the corner. So I think it was whether to make the decision now. I think sometimes we were chopping and changing from 3-5-2 to 4-3-3. I think we see a manager doing that a lot of time. He's looking for something, and it's not happening. I think some of our signings, whether that's down to the management or that's down to the board, we have that's another day discussion. Possibly they haven't worked out. I don't think Young does signings particularly worked out too much. Whether it's down not playing to his strengths, or like we're very much from my was to have a guess what we are. We're a bit of a long ball team. We kind of play a lot of direct balls, and I don't think that suits Donal. Never a strength ever. I mean, Donal know from his time at Rovers, Sligo Rovers, he was never the type of player knock balls into. He's very much a footballer. So there's a lot of issues there, I think, and it's all culminated to this moment where I think it's the best for them to happen. So the most important now for the club, in my eyes, obviously being a fan, is who's next in the door. That's really important, and it's a hard one to call. I was racking my brain before we come on here tonight who could be someone, and the one that popped out to me possibly would be Vinnie Perth. That could be a name that he's Pat's fan. Could be a person they could look to. I don't know, Macdara, do you think there's someone out there, maybe a former international? I know Richard Dunn was linked to the Bohs job before. He was the name shown before. So
yeah, I think someone said to me Richard Dunn might have been at the game yesterday, but I could be wrong. Like he's spoken about Richard Dunn spoken about looking for opportunities in the League of Ireland, and I think he'd turned down maybe opportunities in League Two. I think he had said, because and has been involved in coaching at the underage level at international. Vinnie Perth is a name because he's been doing a fair bit of media work on the likes of Off the Ball, talking about the League of Ireland. Now, could just be doing that because he enjoys doing that, and you're getting paid for it, and you're getting to do games. But it's also, you do that, you're kind of putting yourself in the shop window. Great experience. Had the kind of 2 spells at Dundalk, but the thing was, a few weeks ago, heading into that derby in Tallaght Stadium, a lot of talk was if Pats didn't get a result, that the Tim Clancy would be gone, and at that stage Keith Long wasn't at Waterford. You're kind of wondering, should maybe Gareth Keller have made a decision earlier on, because Keith Long has gone in. I know Waterford lost at the weekend, but they've been absolutely brilliant. I think it was 5 or 6.
Well, actually, I'll jump in that one, because I personally thought that was an obvious one to do. I'll be honest, and Okay, I know I've said this before. Twitter is not the best spectrum to go off in terms of engaging fans, but something we do have and we can look at it. It's a useful tool. I don't think it would have been a popular choice with a lot of Pats fans. I don't know if it's because of the fact that the Bohs connection. I know there's a bit of issue where Bohs trying to get a few players and hire, trying to outbid Pats of wages. I know there's a bit of back and forth there. I'm not going to go into that. But I don't think it was going to be a popular choice, that one. And even though it might seem like the obvious fit. So again, it's hard to call. Donal, I should bring on this one because you watched the game myself, like myself and Macdara. What's your overall thoughts on Pats and moving on to Sligo in a sec?
Yeah, Pats were just, I was surprised again at how poor they were. You know, it's been a common theme throughout the season, as we've discussed like pretty much at length this evening anyway, and on other episodes between myself and yourself, Luke. But yeah, Pats, like they just, like the two you said, lads, they just had no ideas. They offered nothing. Like they had just no impetus about them. They had no, kind of drive, get up and go. They were creating nothing. The XG, as Macdara says, speaks for itself. Like 0.22, that's shocking for a home game. Like, and once Sligo Rovers scored, the heads dropped. And like I said it to you before, Luke, that if Sligo Rovers were able to replicate the performance that they put in Tallaght Stadium on Friday, I was confident that they were going to get a win. They probably didn't play as well as they did in Tallaght, but they still had enough in the tank to see off St. Pat's. And yeah, it was just in terms of a St. Patrick's athletic view, it was dismal viewing, to be honest.
Well, let's move on to Sligo Rovers, because at the end of the day, there was two things on the park, and from obviously trying to look at it objectively after the match, obviously during the game, you're kind of not objective, but watching the game and seeing the highlights back, Sligo were very good in the day. Aims here in the first half. Like, I'll bring back Darren in a sec after yourself, but just looking at the both sides, you could see one team had a game plan, had a structure, and it was obvious from the beginning that they're a well-settled machine at the stage where they know their jobs, and I thought from the first one they were very impressed with how they played.
Yeah, it's really starting to kind of click for Sligo Rovers now. I don't want to keep harking back to the Friday night before in Tallaght Stadium, but Macdara, you were there as well, and you saw how well they played. Like even Stephen Bradley said after the match that Sligo Rovers were the best team that Shamrock Rovers had faced this year. Like they had more possession, they had more shots, and more. I can't remember off the top of my head if they had more successful passes or not. But they certainly outplayed Shamrock Rovers in a lot of departments. And again, there was more of the same on the bank holiday Monday in Richmond Park. Like they had the game plan, and anytime John Russell speaks, whether the results go his way or not, he always talks about the performance. Whether if he's not happy with the performance, then Sligo Rovers have an issue. But given that the nature of the performances that they've been putting in at the minute, and they're playing some sensational football when they're able to get the ball down and play and like knock it around. Like even in Richmond Park on Monday as well. Like if you watch the goal back, it all starts from a ball into the middle of the St. Pat's half from John Mahon, the centre back. He plays it into Matt, who sends it out to the right, and then is back into the box to receive it and not at home. So that's just one kind of pattern of play that you see Sligo Rovers implementing all over the park. They're fond of the big diagonal switch from the centre backs as well. So the performances are really starting to come together, and if no more than any other team, if Sligo Rovers can put a decent run of results together, there's no stopping them right in terms of getting back into Europe at the very least anyway.
Yeah, I got to see Sligo Rovers twice in 4 days, so I was at the game on Friday night, and just to just to put it in context, it was the first home game this season that Shamrock Rovers have had less possession than the opposition, and you have to go back to Derry City coming to Tallaght late last season for a team to play more passes than Shamrock Rovers, and until Friday night, so Sligo Rovers outpassed the hoops as well. So yeah, Alan Manus talked about after the game, it was one of the best Sligo sides he'd faced. Richie Tell said something similar as well. So both I got to speak to Greg Bulger after the game on Friday, and he was really disappointed that they hadn't come away with something, and the players were kind of trooping off, and you couldn't argue with it. They were really excellent on the night. And then, as Donal said there, the goal that they got on against Pats, Max Mata was involved in the build-up, and then as the ball went out to Brandon Flack-Heel, kind of went in, and it was a brave enough header actually, because Dean Linus was coming out of the goal. Probably should have done a bit better for Pats, I thought, from the cross. But they spoke on, John Russell spoke as well on Friday night about he didn't want moral victories. It was grand coming up here and playing well against Shamrock Rovers, he was saying, but like we need to get the results. So he was really pleased that they dug out that win. Because there was a bit of complaints that they were having to play back-to-back away matches in Dublin over the bank holiday weekend. There was something similar in Easter weekend. They went up to Oriel Park and won, and then they had another away game. I think it was the Shelbourne game that they lost. There wasn't much sympathy from Cork City fans I could see replying to our story on Twitter. But anyway, but that's the difficulty you're having for all the teams. You're trying to see what you can get from these two games. Speaking to a Shelbourne fan, friend of mine today, they got 4 points from those games. That's a good return. And Sligo Rovers certainly wanted to get at a very minimum get 3 points. So probably would have been targeting 4, maybe even 6, because they came to Tallaght and they had a good go. Like you look at when Shelbourne came earlier on in the season and they had less than 30% of the ball. Sligo Rovers came and they really pressed Shamrock Rovers well, but it wasn't just about pressing them. When they got the ball and they moved really quickly, and they tried to do that again yesterday. A bit maybe more difficult because Bulger was missing. I think I've been really looking forward to seeing Fabrice Harbin, but he was injured and missed out on both of those games. But they were still able to come and get the result. So they're now looking positively up the table, and the next couple of games are at home.
Just to come in on that in regards to the fixtures, like I think Sligo, I'm not sure what the story is with Cork if they had a home game and an away game this time around, but I think Sligo Rovers were the only team to have 2 away fixtures in both bank holiday weekends. So that's 2 back-to-back away trips. I think I'm not sure what the mileage was this time around, but over the Easter weekend they had to travel 771 kilometres, whereas you look at Derry City having to travel none. And maybe that plays into, like you touched on yourself, Macdara, that maybe Sligo Rovers didn't play as well as they did in Tallaght on Friday night yesterday in Richmond Park. That all that travelling has to come into it. Like that has to surely be a factor. But to still put up the performance that they did, and still, they were still implementing the right kind of patterns of play and bringing in, putting in a solid performance, no more than they did on the Friday night. It's very impressive viewing in my book anyway.
Is the key now for Sligo, Donal, in particular, just consistency? I suppose like we're kind of we're complimenting them here and how well they played Friday night. No shame ever losing the Rovers in Tallaght Stadium. But again, most people agree with that. But the key now is to get those 4 or 5 wins in a row, like to string that momentum and keep the 5th place. They could be higher if they string 1 or 2 more wins in a row together. They could conceivably jump to 2nd, 3rd.
Yeah, and it's a huge game in the showgrounds now on Saturday night against Dundalk, who are only ahead of Sligo Rovers on goal difference at the minute. And then another home game the following week against Shelbourne coming up to Sligo. So yeah, big opportunity for Sligo Rovers now. And as I said, it looks like it's starting to kind of click into gear. As John Russell kept saying, it's a pretty much completely new group. He made 10 new signings in the off season. It's going to take a lot of time for those players to gel, and some of them have taken to it a bit more quickly than others. And the players that have stayed on from last season, like the likes of Nando Pineacker, his game has really gone up another level. And like I don't think we can say any more about Max Mata. 9 goals clear at the top of the goal scoring charts. Like the boys that were there from last year have really up their game, and the new signings have really kind of added a bit more. So it was just going to take a bit of time for them to gel together, but now you can really see, anybody that watches them, really you can see that things are starting to come together and they're really starting to gel, and hopefully it'll only bring good things to Sligo Rovers as they look to move up the table.
Macdara, in a few weeks since you were last on, Rovers or Shamrock Rovers, I should say, just not to confuse people, Shamrock Rovers are, would you say, working like clockwork again? Points, 4 wins out of the last 5, a draw in between, 3 wins last 3. They seem to be kind of getting back to their best.
Yeah, they were very impressive. I watched the game on RT last night, and they were very impressive. It's 5 wins in the last 6 games. The other one was the draw against Shelbourne, and all people will have seen the goals. The Richie Tell goal was worked from front to back, coming from the goalkeeper right up. Richie Tell involved in the middle, and then making a great run. Jack Byrne's ball out to Trevor Clark, and then Jack Byrne hasn't let his maybe head being swayed by, it's pretty obvious looking at his couple of interviews, that he looked like he definitely wanted to go to Charlotte. Now part of it is, you can take the positivity from his point of view that Rovers think he's just so important that they're just not going to let him go. They're going to turn down €500,000 because he's so important for them to try and get the 4 in a row and get back into group stages of European football. Now, whether he'll sign a contract extension, he's free to talk to people come June when his contract is only 6 months from up. But actually, he's been excellent the last couple of games. Rory Higgins talked about it last night that they didn't Derry City couldn't even lay a glove on him, and he was excellent. I suppose the worry is the Alan Manus injury. I don't know who was the director for RTE, but it was horrific. Could they really not zoom in so close on the man's dislocated stroke, broken finger? I was looking at it over the tops of my glasses, so I couldn't see it. And it was like, put away now. And it was like, no, they just kept going and going and going. So Leon Poles came on his 26th birthday, just a few days after he got married, and kept a clean sheet, and that's the second time he's come on as a sub for Alan Manus in the last 12 months, and kept a clean sheet when he's had to do that. But the worry is, and it's always been the worry with Alan Manus, is if he got injured, and it remains to be seen, whether it's a broken finger, ligament damage, obviously really important from a goalkeeper's point of view. And that would be obviously a bit of a worry, but Rovers are in fine form. Like away from home, they've only conceded 2 goals away from home all season. Like that was, I think, 5 games in a row away from home that kept a clean sheet. And they come into a derby match now on Friday. It's first v second. Bohemians are obviously flying. Had a good 5-0 win against Cork City at the weekend, but Bohs haven't won in Tallaght in 4 years now. I think it's April 2019 was the last time, and Rovers have won 4 of the last 5 derbies, and if they can make it 5, they'll only be a point behind Bohemians. So Rovers, I think they've sold out their home allocation. I think Bohemians got maybe 850 tickets. I think they sold out. I think I saw 9 minutes this evening, and that match is on live in RT as well. So yeah, it's a big game. But obviously, if Bohs win, they go 7 points clear. So, but Rovers are motoring, and that was the whole thing about, we would have spoken, Luke, on the pod before and talked a little bit stats and the XG and the passing and all that thing. But really what was apparent at the time was, Rovers were letting these late goals in, these late equalisers in, which I had in my mind. Donal, I was talking to you pitchside on Tallaght on Friday, and I was saying if that had been the start of the season, Shamrock Rovers probably would have conceded a late goal as Sligo piled the pressure on with late corners. But the thing what the Rovers needed to do, we said at the time, is they just need to go on a run. And it's kind of easy to say that, particularly when they'd kind of lost at home to Derry. It was the first time they'd lost at home in the league for like over 600 days or something like that. And they were drawing these games, can they really go on a run? And yes, they have. They've gone on this run unbeaten since losing to Derry. I think, every other side has lost at least 3 games. And Shamrock Rovers have only lost 1 game. So they've certainly got that momentum. And the performances are good, because that's what Stephen Bradley had talked about as well. That's why Friday was a interesting one for me, because they didn't play particularly well, to be fair, because they weren't let play well. But they grounded out a win. The other wins, the likes of Monday night in Derry, they were the better team, and it was kind of a bit worrying from Derry City's point of view. You're really hoping that Colin Whelan's knee's okay, because it didn't look good when he went down, and that's been really good.
He did play on the right there, didn't he? Towards the end,
you can get that though. I can think of a couple of other players I've seen where they've actually kind of play on for a little bit. So listen, we'll hear a little bit more about it over the last couple of days. But actually, because it's been a nice story about Derry City in the last couple of weeks to see Whelan come on, score a couple of goals, and if we had the clip, I think he must have been, I think it was on voice notes or maybe it was on LOI Central. The clip of Whelan talking after the match where he made his debut, and he's really emotional, and you're just kind of going, But that's been the trouble with Derry. We've talked about their injuries and the spine of the team, and but they were certainly second best against Shamrock Rovers on Monday night.
Yeah, and I don't want to jump ahead to Friday night's games just yet, but just on you can.
Sorry, I was just so eager to talk about the Derby.
Yeah, no, you're okay, but it is Sean. It ties in nicely with Derby, I suppose. He touched on Manus' injury, and I know it is obviously a concern, but are you surprised? You mentioned there again, but the goal situation, and we talked about it before, even on the previous show months ago, about Manus going again 41. Are you surprised they didn't get another goalkeeper in? Because, like, say it is ligament damage, it's a few months out, or whatever the case may be. I'm not going to speculate medical injuries, but like from an outside point of view, I wouldn't have the faith in Leon Poles to lead the charge for Rovers and goal. That's my own personal opinion. I don't know what you think.
Yeah. Like the last couple of times Shamrock Rovers have played in Derry, Poles has been in goal and they've lost. They lost in the President's Cup, and he certainly was at fault for one of the goals. But like he saved a penalty at 2-0 late enough last night, and then in the FAI Cup game, the quarterfinal, I think it was last year, he played in that one. Now, it was a quick turnaround from an away European game, but again, people looked at the goals and went, Alan Manus would have come and saved it. Like, he played 6 or 7 times last season. Alan Manus was ill for the game early enough in the season in Oriel Park, and Poles came in and he played very well that night in Oriel Park. It was a scoreless draw. Certainly kept a clean sheet, and he played one of the European games late on. I think it was probably to kind of give him a bit of a reward. He played a couple of games late in the previous season, when the league title was won, and it was similar this time around as well. He was more the cup goalkeeper, but I think I've said before, and I don't know whether this is the case, but certainly the discussion is that Rovers will probably bring a goalkeeper in the summer. So you're bringing someone in from maybe outside the league that's playing a winter league, that they come into the squad, that they're there for the second half of the season, can work under Alan Manus, work with Leon Poles, work with Jose, the goalkeeping coach, with the view that when Manus retires at the end of the season, that they'd be the number one. But I don't know whether that's the case. Like, Manus is working for the IFA out of Windsor Park as kind of administration on the goalkeeping coach. So it's making sure they've the goalkeeping coach structures within the league and within the underage and within the national team set up there, rather than doing the coaching. But Manus has been really resilient right through his career, and he's talked about that before. The gym work that he does. He's doing one less training session a week this year than last year and this year than in previous years. Again, just the miles on his body. But the fear was always you'd pick up an injury, and this was like essentially an impact injury. He came for a cross, got his finger on it, and bang. So you can get a red card. You goalkeeper coming out, and you got to bring a goalkeeper in for one or two, but. Yeah, it's kind of worrying. It's worrying from a Shamrock Rovers point of view. Like, Poles has been brilliant around the squad. He's very vocal. He works really hard. Like, both the goalkeeping coach and Alan Manus would you need. It's a really difficult position to be a backup goalkeeper because you don't get the games, and there's not the. There's no League Cup where you're playing. Like, he did play in the Leinster Senior Cup earlier on in the season, but Rovers got beaten by Bray that evening and didn't play particularly well. So he didn't even get an extended run. So I'd certainly, I can't really see Manus playing on. He's broken the all-time clean sheet record of the club, the league clean sheet record of the club, which he broke last season, but he was waiting on the overall one. If he gets 4 in a row, it'll be his 6th league title. I think he's won 5 at Rovers, so there's not much really more from him to do. So I'd envisage they definitely need to be bringing a goalkeeper in, and certainly I'd probably hope that they're looking to bring someone in midway through the season, as I kind of described. That you're trying to build resilience and a bit of legacy over the next 6 months before given that goalkeeper number one. But as I don't know any more than that.
Yeah, well, look, the injury might accelerate actually the process of getting a transfer and getting a player in. That could be the case. Before we actually read the results for the weekend, maybe just a quick word actually on Cork City. Probably the next manager possibly in trouble. A lot of talk, a lot of unhappiness along with Colin Healy beating 5-0, albeit they were down to 10 men after 20 minutes out of Gilchrist. But the last 4 in a row, Macdara, it's not going particularly well at the start of the season.
Yeah, like Ronan McNamara of Extra Time spoke to Colin after. People probably would have seen the quotes. The referee are killing us. You know, there was an incident where they had a really good chance, but the referee didn't kind of play on. I don't think he seemed to be arguing with the Ali Gilchrist sending off per se, but that sending off was probably, you know, was early enough in the game, and Bohs they were pretty ruthless afterwards after that sending off. Like, I don't really know what the expectations were for Cork coming up. The issue is that UCD are kind of plugging along, and the results have been you know, they just haven't had enough. Cork City haven't got enough wins, and so they're only, what are they? They're 4 points just ahead of Cork City, 4 points ahead of UCD, and they're sitting in the relegation playoff. You know, we're just gone a third of the way through the season. Now they are only 4 points behind, 4 points behind Drogheda. So, like, I think they're in a different situation from St. Pat's and Tim Clancy in that they're just the baseline for Cork City this year is to consolidate. It was like Shelbourne coming up in previous seasons. It was to consolidate, winning the Premier Division, you know, get themselves back up there. And I think Colin Healy's earned a bit of time. You know, they don't have Europe, which was probably a little bit focused for St. Pat's in getting a manager in and being really, really important. But it's 5 games since they last won a match. 3 wins and a draw since then. But you know, the last win was against Dundalk.
Yeah, it's I agree with you. I think, you know, I think it's very incredibly harsh to remove his manager now.
Yeah,
I think you deserve a time to come up. Like, it's a first division squad. He's essentially working with a couple of additions. They know themselves now. They're going to need additions in the summer to stay up. Like that's a given. But look, before we move on, it's funny how football works. Obviously, Tim Clancy gets moved today, and just some glance at the Twitter post later on, a few Cork City fans saying at Dermot Usher, bring in Tim Clancy. So the merry-go-round goes in football is incredible. Anyway, look, well, before we get to Lee Desmond interview, just run through the results from last weekend. The Friday night results in the Premier Division were Shelbourne 2, Cork City 1, UCD 1, Bohs 1. Great result actually for UCD in the Belfield Bowl. Dundalk 3, Drogheda 2, cracking game in Royal last Friday. Derry City 2, St. Patrick 0, and Shamrock Rovers 2, Sligo Rovers 1, as mentioned earlier on. In the Monday night games then from the Premier Division, Pats 0, Sligo Rovers 1, Drogheda United 1, Shelbourne 1, UCD 0, Dundalk 2, Bohs 5, as you mentioned, Cork City 0, and Derry City 0, Shamrock Rovers 2. In the first division, we had Bray 1, Waterford 2, Treaty United 4, Kerry 0, Galway 1, Cove Ramblers 0, Athlone Town 3, Wexford 0, and Finn Harps 1, Longford Town 1. And in the Monday night games, Waterford 0, Wexford 1, bit of an upset there. Bray 0, Treaty United 3, Cove Ramblers 4, Kerry 1, Longford Town 1, Galway 0. Galway first defeat of the season, lads.
Yeah, haven't won 11 in a row, wasn't it?
Yeah, sacked. I think they sacked John Coffey at that form. Shocking. And
get Tim Clancy in there.
And Finn Harps won at Lone Town 4. And the Women's Premier Division, we also had games on Saturday. DLR Waves 0, Galway United 2, Sligo Rovers 1, Athlone Town 3, Peamount 0, Shamrock Rovers 0, Cork City 1, Bohs 3, and Wexford Youths 1, Shelbourne 0. Coming up next, we chatted to Lee Desmond's career in America and a bit more about Pats and all, so stay tuned.
And there's kind of a lot of grumbling about maybe we don't have enough Premier League players, but in terms of the Championship,
But what's the point in grumbling about it?
But the step
I can't hold about it, can I? If they're not playing the play, what's the point of me grumbling?
The step up to international football in the Championship, is it kind of is it easy to manage?
Well, I tell you back then when we played in 2002, what's the point grumbling? We had lads who were all at the bottom of the Premier League, real scrapping away, Kince and Matty Holland, and I had Gary Breen who hadn't even got a club. What's the point grumbling? So I don't subscribe to that, you know, you just... Whatever it is, whatever I've got, I'll get them together and make the best of them and try and make sure we qualify. Grumbling is not one of the things I do.
You can subscribe to each new episode of the ExtraTime.ie Sportscast on iTunes. Please give a rating or add a comment there to let us know your views.
Welcome back to the second half. Donal still alongside me. Let's welcome on now Sacremento Republic centre half Lee Desmond. Lee, how are you?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on, lads. I know it's late for you back home, but I'm just finished training, so it's only 2:30 on the day here.
Yeah, it's late on a bank holiday Monday, but we're cracking. First of all, Lee, how's the injury? I know you're kind of knocked start the season with the USL. Like, how's the injury recovery and how's it going?
Well, I'm back training now. The last 2 weeks, but they're still not letting me play games, and we have a week off next week. So our next game is in the Cup against Colorado Rapids. So I'm hoping to be, on the bench. I wouldn't be expecting to start after 9 months out, but the lads are flying as well, so I have my work to do to get back in. But to be honest, I'm just happy I'm back training. I'm actually moving better than I have in probably 2 years, because like the injury I had, my Achilles, like anyone that played with me at Pats like would have heard me complaining about it so much. It was at me for like quite a few years, but then when I came over here last year, it got really bad, and like I actually regret playing on it so much, because I probably played for maybe 6 months with it really bad, like probably like 9 out of 10 pain. But it was my first year here, and we had the whole cup run. Obviously we got to the cup final and stuff, so I was just trying to impress. I wanted to be part of the cup run, but I remember like I went into a tackle it was probably July. We had New Mexico away, and I went into a tackle and I thought I ruptured it. I just felt like an explosion in my Achilles. And then like somehow got myself like ready to play the cup final maybe 6 weeks later. And then like I got my surgery after that. Like we still had like probably 2 months of the season left with like a playoff run and all in the league, but I honestly didn't care. It was that bad. The level of pain was insane. So I got the surgery in September and then done loads of rehab, like even back home with my old Pats physio, Mark Keneally. I done loads of work with him, and I was flying, came back. And then I think on the 4th day of pre-season, I tore the fascia in my left foot. Like just nobody near me. I was sprinting and I stopped quickly and felt like it's kind of like a stabbing pain in my left foot, like which is the opposite one to the surgery. And yeah, I was out for about 10 weeks with that. So then like I came back and the Achilles needed more rehab again, because I was just at the end of my rehab, and then I done nothing for 10 weeks. So yeah, it's been an absolute nightmare, but like I have to say, like this club is just so good over here, and it's like how often would someone out for 9 months say still enjoyed going in every day? It's just like the people here and the way things are done. It's still really enjoyable, and great group of lads and stuff like that. And when the team is winning, obviously it helps. But I'm just happy that I'm at the end of it now, because yeah, it's been so long since
How does it test you mentally, Lee?
Yeah, it's tough. Like, it's been the toughest spell of my career, definitely. But like I said, it could have been way worse. Like, it's good fun going in every day, and we have like a lot of resources here. Like, we have a place called Restore where we do all our recovery, so things like that help. And like just as the club is very professional, and we have really good facilities we can use to to make it easier for people coming back from injury and stuff like that. But yeah, it's horrible when the boys go out on the pitch in the morning, like you're stuck in the gym. And especially I thought it was going to be like a 3 or 4 month injury, and then it's coming up to 9 months now, yeah. So it's been very tough.
Obviously, that's quite a while you've been laid off, but I'd say Sacramento has a lot to offer off the field. Like, what's the lifestyle like over there in comparison to back here at home?
Yeah, like it is. There's a lot to do, but like obviously that's another thing. Last year, I was in so much pain after training every day. I couldn't do anything. Like driving home, even I was in bits, and then I was just trying to get myself ready for the next day. So like last year was difficult like that. Like Mrs. would be asking me, "Oh, do you want to go out after training?" And the lads would be like, "Do you want to go for a coffee?" Whatever. I'm like, I actually can't. I'm in that much pain, but like that's gone now. But no, there's a lot to do. Like it's a great city. Everyone's really friendly. I knew after a few days that I was like settled here, and I was going to enjoy it, and that's the way it's been. So yeah, long may it last.
You touched on the club itself, Sacremento Republic. And what have you found in terms of, did you find it easy to settle in, or what was that period like when you first moved over from Ireland?
Yeah, well, I came over like still on a huge high from what we done with Pats winning the cup, and I was delayed coming over here with my visa. It was a lot of issues getting the visa, me and two other lads, and I had to go to Poland to get my visa, and then I got here a week before the season started. But there was injuries to a few of the centre halves, so I got thrown straight in and played with like no pre-season. And yeah, the club is just, it's very professional. Like it's a bigger operation than anything in Ireland because, well, we're the only club in the city, but like I'd say it's, you know, top 3 USL clubs in terms of how it's run. They have a big office in downtown, probably like 60 or 70 staff. And then like some weeks we're getting 12,000 fans. So yeah, it's a much bigger operation, and it just makes you feel more professional. They put a lot in place, like even things that might sound basic, but just like, you know, getting fed after training, having, like I said, having like proper recovery set up just to give you the best chance to perform. So yeah, I really love it here.
And Lee, how difficult was that on you being thrown in straight away? Obviously, having no pre-season, like obviously everybody wants to play, so like it's a great opportunity landing in your lap like nearly as soon as you get there. But like stepping up from like the League of Ireland and going playing in a league as competitive as the USL, like how was that tricky, or how did you cope with that?
Yeah, it was tough. It was tough not having a pre-season. Obviously, you can do as much training as you want by yourself. I think I done maybe 4 or 5 sessions with Pass. Tim Clancy let me come in and do a few sessions, but it wasn't a proper pre-season I had. And then I don't know, I centre half as well. Like, you know, you can manage the game and get through it. It'd be worse if you were like left playing fullback or midfield or something. But yeah, me and Dan Casey just got through the game and we won 3-1. But like the league it's completely different type of football. That's what I'd say. I think the standard, and I'm not sitting on the fence here, I think the standard overall is the same, but it's a different type of football. Like back home, like it's probably more physical, like in terms of like, you know, tackles and like first and second balls are kind of everything. But over here, like there's a lot of pacey wingers, or like, yeah, more athletes.
Was that helpful when you moved over and started playing? You mentioned Dan Casey there, and that must be a kind of an asset nearly to play alongside someone that you played beside in the league and also the fellow Irish person. Was that an easier way to settle into the side?
Yeah, it was. Like even when I had the offer from Sacramento, I texted him. I didn't know him beforehand, and I texted him, and he just spoke so well about the club, and yeah, that definitely was a factor in my decision to come here. And now obviously he's flying with Motherwell. I think they've only lost 2 games since he's gone in January, where it looked like they were going to get relegated. And since he's come in, like they're absolutely flying. So fair play to him. I miss him this year, but like it's a very close group anyway. Like a very multicultural squad. We have probably, I'd say, 10 different nationalities. So that's different as well. You wouldn't get that back home. You might get like a couple of lads from the UK, or maybe an odd one from Central Europe or something. But over here, there's probably only 5 or 6 Americans on the team.
Just in terms of, you mentioned there about the multicultural in the dressing room. So how does that work in terms of the players, the coaching staff, the communication? Like, is there certain lads say, and I imagine it's spoken to English, the majority of it. So there's certain players that struggle with the maybe are trying to communicate in the game, or there's tactical stuff that the players don't quite get. How does that work in the change room behind the scenes?
Well, yeah, everyone speaks English bar two. We got a lad from Colombia and a lad from Venezuela in this year. They're still learning English, but like the manager's English, assistant manager's English and stuff like. Everyone speaks English. But no, it's like we just get on so well. I think once you have the respect for each other and you're all pulling in the same direction, it doesn't matter where you're from. And yeah, like I said, it's a really close-knit group and we enjoy each other's company. And that's a big part of it over here because obviously with the travel, like every second week you're away for 3 or 4 days. So you have to be close and you have to enjoy being with each other every day. And we definitely do here.
Did they have trouble understanding your Dublin accent?
Yeah, I guess stick all the time. But to be fair, like we have 2 Geordies, a Scottish man, the 2 Spanish lads have mad accents as well. So I'm not the only one. But they used to say Dan was worse. No one could understand a word Dan said. So yeah, I'm not too bad for them.
In terms of moving over to the States, Lee, was it a tough decision or was it straightforward?
No, it was easy because, like I said, I think I said it on a couple of different interviews before, but I was getting a bit fed up with the League of Ireland. It was just very repetitive to me. Like I played in all the stadiums against the same players kind of for 7 or 8 years, and America was something I wanted to try, and I did push on it the year before. But I'm delighted it didn't happen then because obviously like winning the cup was such a long-term goal of mine. So I'm delighted I didn't go the year before. But like the hardest part, like I've had a few lads from the league getting in touch with me, like kind of asking for help how you do it. Like no one knows about the League of Ireland over here. Like I'm not surprised, but it's difficult to get over. You need like some contacts. So I was in touch with Morgan Langley, who played with Pats in 2015, and he put me in touch with an agency, and I didn't really know what the agency would be like. And like luckily enough, they're brilliant, and I had 4 or 5 offers within a week, I'd say.
And Lee, like you said, like playing in the league was getting kind of repetitive and stuff as well. Obviously, there's a bit more of a bounce around the League of Ireland now.
Yeah.
Would you prefer to be playing in it at the level that the league is kind of gearing towards now, or like you just in terms of you getting fed up of it? Like I can understand where you're coming from when you say that because like you're playing at the kind of same kind of level. There wasn't really much progression in the league at the time, but on the trajectory that the League of Ireland is on now, like would that be something that would interest you?
Yeah, definitely. Like it's great seeing the attendances that the league is getting at the minute. Like we were talking before, we came on live, but like Pats are selling out every week now. That's great, and like a lot of clubs are the same. Like I do think I probably will finish up in the league again, but saying I was fed up is wrong. I wanted a different experience as well. Like probably have a 15-year career if you're lucky, and just wanted to see what else was out there, and like it worked out really well for me. Like I said, like I could have went to a couple of different clubs, and I got lucky. Like everything was just done so well here. Like so, I'm delighted with my decision. But I do think I will finish back up in the League of Ireland. I don't think I'm going to stay here forever. But who knows? I'm keeping all my options open for now.
Yeah, it's interesting to me because we've chatted to James Chambers before and Richie Ryan, who were involved in the USL and are still involved. Both have kind of hinted or said that they see their long-term future in the United States, staying there. Just talking to you there, it seems like you do aspire to come back to Ireland at some stage. Is that the case?
Yeah, I think so. Like, who knows what offers like might come my way like in the next kind of 6 months or a year. But I'm just focusing on getting back fit now. But yeah, I met James there 2 weeks ago because Colorado were playing here, and I met him for a coffee beforehand. So yeah, he's very settled here, and has a really good job as well, like as assistant manager there in Colorado Springs. And yeah, Richie as well. I played against Richie last year, and he's coaching now in Tulsa. So there's more opportunities. That's one thing I say. If you want to get into coaching, like the opportunities and the money here, like is a lot better, I believe, than back in Ireland.
I'm sure James complimented the podcast very much when he was on it, did he?
He didn't mention the podcast, to be honest.
Ah, I thought that's what sold you coming on.
Delete.
Just to bring it back, Lee, a little bit, maybe about 10 years, and obviously, looking at the moment, Newcastle are kind of one of the top teams in England there in terms of pushing on. How did you end up in Newcastle from Cherry Orchard gone to Newcastle? Was it trial or were you a scout? How did that come about?
Yeah, like, so we are at that age where like everyone's trying to get to the UK. You think it's the most important thing in the world at the time. And yeah, I had offers from Burnley, Rangers, and Newcastle. And to be honest, like, it's the only regret I have in my career is picking Newcastle, because I actually had like an extra year at Burnley, and we just, like, I felt at home there. I went on trial 5 times, and every time, like, I loved it. And they offered me like an extra year, as I said, and then we just went with Newcastle. Like, obviously, I made the decision like with me mum and dad, but we just went with Newcastle because we were told like the education was going to be better over there, and they were a Premier League club, and yeah, the facilities were a bit better, and yeah, I don't know. Once I got over there, like, I was injured my first year, so that was difficult. But yeah, like, in hindsight, I would have went to Burnley. But anyway, I think I would have struggled wherever I went. I wasn't ready to leave home. I was too young. Like, and then I came back to Ireland when I got released from Newcastle, and thinking like, oh, I didn't know a lot about the League of Ireland, but I was like, oh, I'll walk in here. I'm after being over in Newcastle. I was 18, like, no experience playing with men. So, and then I got very lucky. Like, Johnny McDonald took like 7 or 8 of us from Shelbourne under 19s up to the first team. Very lucky that they actually got relegated, and they were giving young players a chance. And then Johnny was just excellent for me, and I'm sure like the likes of Dylan Connolly and stuff would say the same. Just very patient with us, played every week, and then I just got used to men's football, and that's how everything started back home.
Yeah, it's interesting because we had Joe Redmond on before, and he kind of was echoing something similar, maybe not being ready going over. Do you think then, in terms of what's happened with Brexit and players now not they have to stay longer unless they're going to the European countries, that it could benefit maybe the player now that you get to maybe get that experience, like Johnny Kenny and say all of the young lads coming through now that they're playing more regular men's football at 18, 19 will serve them better?
Yeah, it's a blessing in disguise, and I said that to Adam Murphy because he had a few offers from Premier League clubs, but he couldn't go because of Brexit. But like, playing now, like, he's flying now for the first team at Pats. That's way more beneficial than playing academy football. It's a blessing in disguise. Like, even James Abankwah, he's on the bench every week for Udinese. Like, that's crazy. Who knows if he went to a championship or a Premier League club at 15 or 16? And like, you don't know how it works out. I've seen so many players over the years who, like, it destroys them and they fall out of love with football. And like I said, a lot of things obviously I worked very hard, but a lot of things went my way. Like I said, Shell's getting relegated. And then there was a chance for me to play, having Johnny as my manager. A lot of things went my way where I see players who were better than me at that age, and they come back from the UK at 18 or 19, and like, they're finished. Like, whatever happened over there, like, they're mentally destroyed and fall out of love with the game.
Just on that then, how did you mention the term like falling in love with football, and in fairness, like, Ireland's probably littered with these players. How did you keep the mental strength for yourself to keep going and persevere and get back to where you are now?
Just little things over time. Like, I had to get back to enjoying it for one, and I did. Like, I had a few months with Shells in their 19s, and just back enjoying football, like, without like missing home and just being miserable every day. And then like, it was just one thing at a time, and up to the first team, we had a good year. We didn't get promoted, but yeah, we had a good year, and I got loads of games under my belt, and it just kept going from there. And we played Pats in the Cup. We played Pats in the Cup and drew with them in Richmond, but I didn't play. I had like a little problem with my knee, and then we played them again in the replay like 3 or 4 days later, and I played left back against Conan Byrne, and he used to joke with me saying like, I got you a contract that day, like, because he was so bad. I had him in my pocket, but Then I signed from Pats from there.
Obviously you're part of that Liam Buckley team for 3 or 4 seasons. How would you describe Liam Buckley as a coach at Pats?
Yeah, just total football, like how a young player would want to play. And like I know at times it was actually our downfall because we overplayed and it led to like mistakes and stuff like that. But he wanted to play like his style of football, and like it's served him so well over the years. He was a great man, always treated me well. But like I said, when I went in at first, I think I was 20. So like I had Kenny Brown, Sean Hoare, Jay McGuinness ahead of me. So I think I still got 35 games in all competitions that year. But yeah, had to learn a lot. Like I was still miles off like the player I am today. But yeah, it was good having senior pros like that to learn from.
Was Liam Buckley maybe the best manager you had in Ireland, Lee? Or if he's not, then who was?
Pats fans won't like me saying this, but I played my best football under Stevie O'Donnell. He just, when he came in, like, because we had a bad year with Harry Kenny, and I remember just wanting a manager who, like, I could relate to and, like, had the same beliefs as me, and a young manager. I didn't really have a young manager before, and so when Stevie got the job, I was delighted. And then it was actually really tough because he came in the last 6 weeks, and then the next year we had a full season, and then COVID happened in February. So it wasn't until 2021 where we actually had a proper full year without interruptions. And yeah, it just brought my game on another level. Just changed my mentality. I think a lot of lads will say the same. Like the standard in training was excellent. Sometimes not always good standard in terms of like to look at, but everyone was at it. We're like a team of dogs every day, flying into tackles, high intensity. And that's why we won a lot of games that year. That's why we had such a good season. So, yeah, he'd be the best manager I've played under in the league.
It's interesting that you highlighted the point as well, Lee, about like young managers and stuff, like how you wanted a young manager to come in and kind of shake things up a bit. Do you think that that's just the way the game is going now? Like, I mean, if you look across the League of Ireland, there's a whole host of ex-players that have just finished their careers managing clubs. Even John Russell at Sligo is one that springs to mind immediately. Like, you know, do you think that that's beneficial, that that's the way it's going, that there's so many young managers in the game now?
Yeah, like, and a lot of them are ex-players too. Stephen Bradley, John Russell, Tim Clancy, Stevie O'Donnell. So yeah, I think they can relate to players more, and also the style of football that they're playing is like, I suppose, more modern, and the way the game has gone now, it's like very athletic, and yeah, no, it's great to see the way it's going back home. It's the same here too, actually. A lot of the managers are very young, like kind of mid-30s, like to early 40s, I'd say most managers in the leagues are.
No, I think it's an interesting point you made, just going back to the kind of the Buckley and Donal argument. Obviously taking out my complete bias out and looking objectively, like, to be fair, the difference between a Liam Buckley side and a Steve O'Donnell side was intensity. Sometimes I felt myself, from looking at a fan's point of view, we're very passive and maybe one-dimensional. Yeah. But when Stevie came in, there was different ways you played. We were much more intense, maybe that measures the modern game the way it went. That intensity and high pressure was more valuable than, say, playing possession-based football. I don't know what your thoughts on that are.
Well, that changed massively, but it was because how we trained every day. Like some of our training sessions were harder than the games. Like just everyone, like I said, just really intense, and then when you go into games against the so-called smaller teams, it's a lot easier because you're used to training like that every day. Where like, just I'm not saying one way is right and one way is wrong, but like earlier, like kind of my first few years at Pats, like training was viewed differently, where it was more relaxed, and then like you save yourself kind of for Friday nights. But yeah, that's the way Stevie done things, and it works really well for us.
Can I take it back to the 2017 season, because I'm interested what it's like in that dressing room? Obviously, look, turns that year wasn't a great year for Pats. It was touch and go for a long time whether the club might be getting relegated. Obviously, it would be a huge disaster for the club in terms of, it's the club like that getting down to the first division. A couple of mid-season signings come in. Probably the one that stands out is the Jordy Balka and yourself. The relationship you had at the back was probably key to staying up that year. And I remember the Cork game kind of stands out, that famous game when Richard Park won the game 4-2.
Yeah.
What was that like at the time in the dressing room, and how big of a character was Balk to come in and kind of view as a player that kind of maybe was one of the reasons why we stayed up that year?
Yeah, well, one thing I think the club done well, the coaching staff done well, was they didn't let the young players feel the pressure, because we might have struggled a bit more if we were feeling the pressure of being in such a big relegation battle. They let the senior players take that pressure, and that really helped us. Obviously it worked because we stayed up, but Jordy came in the summer. He wasn't like a massive character in the changing room, but didn't matter. On the pitch he was excellent, one of the best centre halves I played with. But it's a shame he's not playing anymore. When he went back to Holland, I think he quit, didn't he? He's working as a PT or something now, and he's still young. What a player he was. One of the best centre halves I've played with.
Is he up there? Yeah, definitely one of the best. Is there anyone else up there maybe close to back? You say Paddy Barrett, possibly?
Kenny Brown was unbelievable.
Yeah.
I didn't get to play with Sean Hoare that much because both of us were young, and they didn't want us to have a 20 and a 21-year-old centre half, which I get. Kev Toner, unreal. And then over here, Dan Casey, we played three at the back over here, Dan Casey and one of the American boys, Conor Donovan. I've played with a lot of really good centre halves, so it's hard to say who the best is.
It's funny on the Toner one, the one that strikes in my head, I remember hearing a few times from fans that it's unnatural to have two left-footed centre backs. Was that something that was discussed in the dressing room, but having two players that were left-footed centre half?
No, it was just who wants to play on the right, and I was like, no problem, yeah, I'll do it. That was it.
Look, fast forward in 21, obviously a fantastic season, going close to the league, and then obviously the main spectacle of the season was the final. What's your thoughts leading up to the game, and did you do anything different, or what was your leading memories leading up to the match?
It was brilliant. We're so lucky that they let fans into the Aviva, because I think we went back into another strict lockdown a few weeks later, didn't we? So yeah, just so happy to have whatever it was, 40,000 at it, all my family and friends. Just a day, a picture growing up, just an absolute dream, and then to win it was it would. I don't know, it would have been tough leaving Ireland, not getting that cup winners medal, but the lead up to it was. We were preparing for that game, as soon as the semi-final ended. We kind of, even we had four league games left, but we were preparing for the cup final in training, and the league games were I think Rovers were kind of uncatchable by then, and the league games weren't as important as they would have been, and then we stayed in the hotel in Portmarnock on the Saturday night before, and they had a video from all our families. All our families secretly made video, and then at the end, Jurgen Klopp came on and wished us good luck, because obviously we had Yaros on loan from Liverpool. So yeah, it ended with Jurgen Klopp wishing us well, which everyone was buzzing. We were ready to play the cup final then. And it was right, lads, time for bed. And we're like, what? We're all pumped up after getting a message from Jurgen Klopp, and it's right, time to go to bed. So, that was class. And then, even the next morning, we went for a walk around Portmarnock, and on the bus to the stadium, there was a calmness and a belief that, I never really felt before. There was nerves, but I think we just had a lot of belief that we were going to win it, and thankfully we did in the penalty shootout.
Supposedly there was no doubt you were going to lose after Jurgen Klopp was probably screaming at you down the camera. But say if he had have lost, would you have wanted to stick around Ireland for a little bit longer to have another crack at silverware, or was your mind made up that you were going to go regardless?
I don't know. It definitely would have been harder, but I think I still would have came to the States. But yeah, it would have been a big regret. So like winning it was the biggest achievement I've had in my career. Like, and it was just that night and even the day after with all the fans, it was just perfect. Couldn't have been any better. So even the cup run here last year was unreal. We beat 3 MLS teams and then lost in the final. But I think that the experience the year before with Pats helped me, and I was way more relaxed leading up to the game. And yeah, it was just it was a big experience that I'll carry with me for the rest of my career.
I think looking back myself, I think one of the regrets I had was not being in McDowell's the day after the final because unfortunately it was in work, but we with the Twitter images would make you jealous. But just in terms of the players, like I know you're in your head, you're probably 1 foot out the door, but you're still a part of the dressing room. What were those days like when the news started to unravel about Donal possibly leaving? Then it looked like maybe he was staying, then he was gone. What was it like as a player in that situation? Like, you know, you just had the high of winning the league. This squad looks like it's ready to go again. Possibly to challenge Rovers next year, and suddenly the manager then is gone 3 days later. What was your own insight? What was it like the time in the dressing room?
It happened very quick. So like the week of the cup final, there was no rumours then. So I think it started coming out either after the cup final, the night of, or else the next day. And then it just happened really quickly. Like, but I know the Pats fans like weren't happy the way things ended and stuff. And but like, you know, he gave 100% when he was with us. Like, and you know, we wouldn't have won that cup without him, or had the season we had without him. Got a really good squad of players together and built a good culture in the club. So I don't have a bad word to say about Steve. He was, like I said, he was excellent for me. But like I said, leading up to it, or the last few weeks of the season, there was no rumours going on at all. It happened very quickly.
Do you think, or maybe it doesn't cross your mind, but if you were to think about it now in terms of that squad towards the end of that season, if it had stuck together for another year, a couple of extra additions, do you think possibly how well it could do, or how well it could have done the year after? It was obviously the 2 years he was there, he built a fantastic team. And is there an element of like, geez, that team coming on an extra year, maybe it could have done this or that, or is that cross your mind at all?
I don't know. I mean, they have a very good squad of players now as well with Doyle and Mulroney and stuff, and like a lot of that squad is still there, isn't it? I wonder how many. I'd say there's probably still 8 or 10 players still there from that cup winning side. So who knows what would have happened, but that wasn't a factor in me coming here, and I let Tim Clancy know that as well. I said, like, it's nothing to do with like whether Stevie stayed or left. I wanted a change for my career. So yeah, I'm happy with my decision for sure. Anyway,
how do you compare the FA Cup final to the US Open Cup final?
The FA Cup final was unbelievable. Like, you know, the atmosphere was probably better at the Open Cup final, even though there was less fans. And I think there was 25,000 at it, but like 23 of them were Orlando because it was in their stadium, and we brought 2,000 across the country, which was crazy. But yeah, very hostile atmosphere, but enjoyable. And we were excellent for 70 minutes against them, and then when they got the first goal, the game changed massively, and they went on to win 3-0. Huge occasion for like a USL club to get to the Open Cup final, beating LA Galaxy on the way in their stadium. So that was crazy. But to me, the FAI Cup final will always be better, because I want, like, when I signed for Pats, I just wanted it for so long, and I didn't think it was going to happen. We had some bad years, and then we started getting momentum, as I said, when Stevie came in, and we got that belief again. I was like, right, it's now or never. I have to win this game. And thankfully we did.
What's in terms of the difference in between the MLS and the USL? Is there huge jumping in talent, or it was obviously mentioned there, like, even looking reading there, that the USL Cup final run you bet was it Galaxy, you bet I think here Sport Kansas City, you bet the San Jose Earthquakes as well. So like, is there much difference in the standard between the MLS and the USL top division?
Yeah, like there is. It's just a faster pace and even more athletic than the USL. But I think a lot of our players would easily play MLS. But then some of their teams have like a Shaqiri or a Chicharito or like Gareth Bale last year, where we don't have that. Like each team has like more game winners, game changers. But yeah, it's hard. Like not a lot of people make that jump up from the USL to the MLS. Like they're more interested in taking like college kids coming through or getting in like Europeans or stuff like that. I've noticed though that like in my year here, maybe being like 2 players who've had excellent seasons in the USL and get the call up to the MLS. But yeah, it's very difficult for whatever reason.
For the rest of the season now, obviously the main goal more than likely just get back fit and get back playing minutes. I suppose that's the goal, medium to short term.
Oh yeah, I miss it so much. Like, and just being back training. The last 2 weeks, like I'm moving so well. I didn't think, honestly, I had massive doubts if I was going to have to retire because it was going on that long. And then like even like 2 or 3 months after the surgery, like I wasn't making any progress really. And yeah, I thought I might have to retire because I only said this to 1 or 2 people, but like it was in my mind every day, like I don't know what I'm going to do here. But when I went back to Mark Keneally in his gym in Selbridge for November, December, January, I made massive improvements with him. And yeah, he's seen this injury before and stuff like that. So finally I'm back, and I have my work to do to get back in the team because in our first 8 games we have 6 clean sheets. So yeah, the lads are flying. So I'm gonna have to bide my time and hopefully be on the bench against Colorado Rapids now in the Cup next Tuesday. So just take it from there. We have a busy schedule as well in May. We have loads of games, so I should get some minutes there and just try to get back in a team that's doing very well.
Lee, in great time, there's probably one last question. I'll be shocked by Pats fans don't ask. When are we going to see you back in Richmond Park?
I'll be at a game in January anyway, in pre-season. But no, like who knows? Like I said, I don't know. I probably will finish up in the league. But yeah, we'll see what happens. I haven't been in touch with anyone from the club about coming back, but it would be nice to come back one day. But we'll see what happens.
Lee, great time. Good luck rest of the season and good luck with recovery.
All right, thanks, lads. Appreciate it.
Get in touch. You can email us at extratimelive@gmail.com or tag us on Instagram using the hashtag League of Ireland or tweet us at Extra Time News.
Let's do it.
Welcome back to the third half. Donal and Macdara alongside me. That was a good chat with Lee there, Donal, wasn't it?
Yeah, fantastic, Luke. Yeah, what got me was just how honest and open he was about everything, and really gave us good insight into how he's getting on over in America. Like his talk on the injury struggle was really quite interesting, and even just his views on the League of Ireland, where it was from when he was playing and where it is currently, something I thought really stood out as well.
Yeah, just even the mention of the repetition of playing the same teams and wanting to get out and experience different ways of football, different teams, different whatever the case would be, and it's kind of understandable. I did like the fact he left the door open to come back to Pats. He didn't say exclusively Pats. He said League of Ireland, but hopefully that means a return to Richmond Park one day. Anyway, a quick look ahead to the fixtures this weekend, and I suppose there's no other place where you start other than the Dublin Derby again. Bohs Rovers. Macdara, it's quite a big game. I know they're always big games, but there seems to be a bit more of this now. Bohs is a great start to the season. They're on, Rovers obviously flying back into form. Obviously, the hitch with Alamanis is obviously a problem, but in terms of the game, it's set up beautifully.
Yeah, it is, because you probably have to go back to 2010 for Bohemian Shamrock Rovers game where the two teams are up towards the top of the table. Now, Bohs for a long time, there was a long run where I think they won 8 and drew 1 during that time as well. But the fact that I say like it's a real 6-pointer, and if Bohemians can come and get a result and move 7 points clear, and those whatever 800-900 Bohemians fans would certainly enjoy their trip to Dublin 24, but it'd be pretty miserable if they've 6,500 Shamrock Rovers fans gloating about only being a point behind them in the table. So that's a bit of it. Like Declan Devine has got has done really well with this Bohemian side. Everyone knows this Rovers team are going for 4 in a row, and a win in this derby would be a good benchmark. It kind of, people were saying, you're looking at the league table, saying, okay, it's about Shamrock Rovers and where Derry City are or where they are against Bohemians. So yeah, it'll be a massive game, and another, like, there's so many sold out games right across the league. But obviously this is another one. There's been people on to me looking for tickets during the week for this one as well. So the last few tickets, I think, were snapped up on Tuesday for the home end anyway.
Do you know what? Even with the new stand coming in, I know some people have their skepticism about, what's the point of building facilities when you can't fill the stadiums? But I genuinely believe the new stand was there. That game sells out.
Oh yeah, no, I definitely, because probably Bohemians probably would have been allocated slightly more as well. Potentially they might be grumbling, saying they wanted more tickets, but actually Rovers have sold right the way across the East Stand, which is the one that will hold both sets of teams. But yeah, the new stand will be ready probably maybe August, I think, maybe September. So I think the next Bohs Derby is 1st of September. So potentially that might be the case. Now, depending on, maybe I shouldn't say that Bohs might have dropped off at that point, because Bohemians fans shouting at their podcast app, but yeah, definitely if there was a bigger capacity and that stand was available, you'd definitely top over 8,000 and beat the record attendance for a league game in Tallaght Stadium.
Yeah, and just actually on Bohs, I probably should have mentioned it in the first part. James McMahon is getting his first goal as well. Looks an absolute find. Like he looks like a fantastic player. Only thing is leaving Sir too. Like he's probably one of the standout players this season.
Yeah, he's been excellent. I think helpful for Bohemians also that Ali Coote came back from suspension. No, sorry, it was Jordan Flores came back from suspension, but Coote had missed for a couple of games as well. And I think the more full strength, obviously Bohemians are. Coote and Flowers are the types of match winners, but the kind of young talent that is available to Declan Devine as well. The fans, everyone loves to see a player come through, a young player come through from within the ranks and contribute to the first team.
My future Shamrock Rovers player, is he, Macdara?
No comments. No comments.
Oh, they're not going to like that one, Luke. They're not going to like that one.
I don't see.
Probably like one of the things is, and I would have spoken to Andy Lyons, after he'd signed for Shamrock Rovers before he went to Blackpool, and one of the reasons why he signed was, the potential of playing with Rovers, playing in Europe, but it was also going full time, which was a big change for him, and he talked about that actually, the real mindset and the change. But Bohemians have under. Well, I think the plan was always that they were going to do that as well. But training in the morning, having the setup for rest and recovery. So one of the reasons why some players might have moved, has now been taken away, and also the fact that Bohemians, that they're selling out their games is bringing more finance in, and obviously there's more finance available to hang on to players as well, and potentially a windfall. I know Evan Ferguson has signed an extended contract at Brighton, but we all know sometimes signing a contract extension can actually mean the player might move maybe soon enough, and seemingly Bohemians do have a clause that would get them a percentage of that. Of any transfer fee, which would be, a massive transfer fee wherever Ferguson moves to. So maybe more money coming Dalymount's way. And worth saying that in relation to the new stadium, that the Dublin City Council presented the new plans to the councillors in the last fortnight as well.
Yeah,
people may have seen that. There's still issues in and around the shopping centre. I did see in the Dublin Inquirer newspaper in the last weeks as well. But again, more steps forward with the stadium, which is obviously a long-term plan and is badly needed. But I think everyone looking at where the league is at the minute, looking at attendances and talking about facilities, can see putting a new stadium at Anyman Park, is the fact they're getting enough crowds that they would fill that and more.
Donal, a quick word to yourself then. Sligo Rovers playing Dundalk on Saturday. How do you see the game going?
Yeah, it's going to be another big one in the showgrounds this Saturday. Look, like I said, 4th versus 5th in the table. Dundalk only ahead of Sligo Rovers on goal difference. Big result for Dundalk there over the weekend of beating Drogheda 3-2 there in the Loud Derby. They'll be sure to gain some confidence from that. And then, they seem to pick off UCD fairly easy on the bank holiday Monday, 2-0. Ryan O'Kane, I think, is coming into a bit of form for Dundalk. I'm not sure I wasn't sure if he scored the second goal for them on bank holiday Monday. He definitely scored against Drogheda anyway. And he'll certainly be one to watch. Like, there's been a lot of talk about him the last couple of seasons, and he's kind of starting to live up to the hype a wee bit now. So he'll be man for Sligo Rovers to keep an eye on. But in terms of Sligo Rovers, like, they'll be desperate off the back of the last two performances to get back into the showgrounds. No doubt there'll be a big crowd in there on Saturday night as well. There's a lot of good. There's a feel good factor around Sligo Rovers at the minute, given what they're producing on the pitch. Even though some of the results might not be going the way they want, but given what the football that's being played, no doubt there'll be a huge crowd in the showgrounds on Saturday to see some of that fabulous football again.
Macdara, never asked you for a score prediction for finish up. What are we thinking the scores that end up on Friday night?
Score prediction. Well, it might depend on when the teams get their team news out, because I have been known in my match predictions to deduct teams a goal if they don't get their team news out in time for the preview. But which has happened for both clubs this season. A score prediction. Shamrock Rovers is going to win. I'm going to say 2-1.
Okay, 2-1. Yeah, I'm going to go for I'll go for probably 2 and win as well. I think I'd fancy Rovers in the game. Donal, do you want to give a neutral point of view?
1-1.
1-1. Okay, the most sit on the fence score in the world. Okay, right. We'll have a quick read through the fixtures this weekend in the SSE Airtricity League, starting with Friday night in the Premier Division. Shelbourne v UCD, Drogheda United v Derry, Cork City, St. Patrick. John Daly's first game in charge is interim manager. Shamrock Rovers v Bohs, as mentioned, and Sligo Rovers v Dundalk. In the first division, we have Wexford, Bray, Treaty United, Athlone Town, Cove Ramblers, Finn Harps, Kerry, Longford Town, and Galway United, Waterford, all on Friday night. And lastly, in the Women's Premier Division, Bohs, Sligo Rovers, DLROAs, Wexford Youths, Galway United, Treaty United, Shamrock Rovers, Cork City, and Athlone Town, Shelbourne, all on Saturday. Lads, I'd ask where you'd be, but I know where everyone's going to be. Macdara will be in Tallaght, and I'm going to assume, Donal, you'll be in the showgrounds.
I absolutely will. Can't wait.
Are you on the comms?
No, not this week. Not this week.
No, just a fan.
Yeah.
Just a fan. Okay.
And I'll be in Tallaght twice because I'm going to go to the Women's Premier Division game, the Shamrock Rovers Cork City game on Saturday afternoon. That's a 5:30 game. When the Rovers played at home against Bohemians there the other week, I think it broke the record attendance for the WNL, or the Women's National League, or the Women's Premier Division. I think it was 1,111 exactly. So I don't know whether it'll be bigger on Saturday night, but the Rovers are trying to make kind of Saturday evening kind of the time, 5:30 the time for their women's side, who are unbeaten so far this season.
And you can check
Saturday nights are great. Saturday nights are great nights for football. That's all I'll say there.
So I'm a bit biased there, for sure. Be sure to check out all the previews on extratime.com as well. Actually, a little plug for the website. We have a new little section. Have you seen that, lads? Podcast section.
There's a home for the podcast, is there?
There's a home for the podcast now. Little plug, yeah. If you actually click
listen back to all the back catalogue of
fabulous catalogue of hours of content. I don't know what more you want really listening in. And also you can see a lovely little picture and then a little blurb of my intro and who I am, my about section. So if you're really interested, you can have a little look. Anyway, look, we'll leave it there. Last plug actually. Voice Notes is on Friday evening. Be sure to check it out, or Saturday morning. Again, highly recommend the tune. If you haven't, do listen to it. Okay, let's finish up, lads. Thanks, Lee Desmond, for coming on. Lads, thanks as always, and we'll chat to you all next week.